Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up the opportunities and possibilities that spirituality can bring to you in your everyday life. Welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Matilda. I am a professional psychic medium here in Australia. I've been doing my work for well over 20 years and love to bring peace to people through my mediumship work, as well as connections with your spirit guides, my spirit guides, and information that help you along your way. In today's episode, we are going to be doing a deep dive into psychic addiction, what can cause it, how to help yourself if you are in the midst of it, the red flags for people that claim to be psychic. It is a very uncomfortable space. I have talked about it a little. I'm going to be blunt. I warn you, I am going to be blunt. I'm not going to make any friends with this information, but it is important. It is something that has bothered me for a really, really long time. And I'm going to do a deep dive into that. We also have the amazing Tracy St. Croi. She is a psychic medium based out in Texas, but she runs phenomenal intuition, psychic development courses, how to lean into your intuition, all of that. So we're going to be talking about that and a new exciting project that she does have coming up. So that's a little bit towards the end of the episode. It has been, for me, a couple of weeks of hell, probably about 3 weeks. I am usually a really, really level-headed person. I have been told by an astrologer that I know, you might know her, Miss Laurie Rivers, that it's because Mars was in retrograde and it was making us all feel like we were walking through mud. I have struggled so much. I love doing what I do. I get up every day. I look forward to dealing with my clients. I look forward to all the connections that I have. I have my Patreon. I love usually popping in there 2 or 3 times a week for a chat. There's a lot that I juggle behind the scenes that people don't see. I work as a psychic medium 3 to 4 days a week. I can't do any more than that because of the energy involved. I'm recovering from spinal surgery, as you know. Haven't mentioned that for a couple of weeks, so I thought I'd throw it in. I had a very good friend of mine lost her daughter and felt useless, couldn't be friend or medium. It was a very difficult situation and a very, very sad situation for all involved. I've had a couple of my family members that have been sick and in and out of hospital, as well as one had surgery. And I just, with the Mars retrograde, I have felt sluggish and tired and really struggled. That's my whinge. I'm hoping that now we're heading towards a new moon that I'm going to have a bit of energy back. Oh my goodness, am I tired? Last night, I barely slept. Now, there's probably a really human problem with the fact that I barely slept. Funny story. I had been playing Russian roulette in the last week with whether my coffee machine was going to work in the morning. And there's a couple of mornings when it didn't work. And you and I know that coffee is key first thing in the morning. And I was getting really frustrated. So I decided that I was no longer going to use a pod machine, which I have had pod machines for the last 15 years. I was going to go and buy myself a proper bean to cup machine. I do have buyer's regret. I'm not going to lie. I did get a really good one. It's got all the bells and whistles on it. Did I know how to use it? No. Am I good with instructions? Also no. And yesterday was the first time I used it, and I think I overdid the coffee. I had 2 cups of coffee, but they were both incredibly strong. I like bitter coffee. And I think that may have been why I did not sleep at all last night. I had a very, very restless night, and I woke up with a blinding migraine, had to cancel 2 of my readings. They're okay. They got moved later this week. That's not a problem. And I'm grateful for anyone that allows me that flexibility, because I know you guys wait for months to speak to me, and I always feel immense guilt if I have to move a reading. But needs must. I was no good to anybody. The wonderful Alicia sorted out those readings and did a lot of other stuff for me so I could actually go back to bed for a couple of hours. I was just not fun. So yeah, it's just been a really rough couple of weeks. I'm blessed. I am really blessed with my life. I am where I want to be. I am around the people I want to be around. I do the work I want to do. I get to travel if I want to. I get to do a lot of things. So I know that I am incredibly blessed. So when things stack up like they have over the last 3 weeks, I have to remind myself that I am very blessed and that this is not going to last forever. So we're just going to hope that from tomorrow we have better days. Tonight, I am looking forward to a really good sleep. I can tell you that. I am probably going to have a very long bath, relax a little bit, and get into pajamas and just crash out. Gee, how have you guys gone? Have you found the last 3 weeks or so difficult energetically? Have you found that it's like living in treacle? Aside from, yes, we know what's going on in the United States and there's a lot of fear and anxiety around that. And I will talk about that as I usually do at the end of the podcast with other predictions coming in. But has anyone else found this energy really treacle-like? Because I'm just about ready to go and sit on a beach for a while. Just a quick break in this podcast to give a shout out to my new Patreon members. If you don't know about Patreon, it is a platform that allows me a lot more freedom to give predictions as I see them rather than trying to talk in code. There are, for just $5 a month, you get a newsletter, you get access to me on the chats, you get an invitation to the coffee morning, you get discounts to my readings, you get early release to all my readings, all of that for the basic of $5 a month. And that sponsors this podcast so that we don't have to have random ads during the podcast. So pop along, have a look at Patreon. You can join for free, and I do try and load up various things for free members. It's just a case of time most of the time, but there are a couple of levels. I am introducing a new level during March for those interested in spiritual development. It is going to be helping people who are wanting to or working within spiritual practices, anything from healing to tarot cards to mediumship. Included in the membership will be a monthly open circle for all of us to learn through. But for now, I'm going to give out a shout out to my latest new members: Shito, Selena, Kelsey, Christine, Marie McKinnon, Jessie, Vania, Elaine, Jenna, Claudia, Marcy, Nicole, Alyssa, and Tracy Van Z, who has joined for 12 months. I need to go back because Elaine also joined for 12 months. Thank you, guys. Your trust in me, your faith in me, joining our wonderful community. And it is a wonderful community where everyone is supporting everyone else. It means the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's talk about psychic addiction and what it can mean and the damage it does. I've talked about this before, and sadly, there are many people that will take advantage of people that are going through an emotional time, going through a difficulty. Now, I'm removing the mediumship side of this and just talking about the psychic side of this. As a medium, I really do advocate that people go through a little bit of a healing journey and some grieving before they have a psychic a mediumship reading. I do say that it's on a personal basis. It depends on how far along your journey you feel you are. But as far as psychic readings, often the people that fall prey to continual psychic readings, and a lot of the people that take advantage of them, are those that work on maybe some of the phone lines, the $1 a minute, that sort of thing. Or sometimes it's $20 a minute. Some of them are very expensive. And the questions can be based around relationships that haven't worked out or situations that people find themselves in. The problem that I have with these is that many people that are using these lines, some people that are using these lines, aren't just reading them once. Like, I advocate for psychic readings once every 3 to 6 months. I think 6 months is a really good time because you allow things to play out. You allow the stuff your guides have given you to sink in. You really are working through some stuff before you jump back in and demand answers. But there are many people that are phoning these phone lines, and they are phoning 3, 4, 5 times a day. And they're wanting answers. They are not wanting to do the work, and they have not been advised to do the work. They are simply handing their power over to a psychic they will never know anything about, that they are reading a blurb about that's on the website, and they are getting answers such as, when is my person of interest going to contact me? Now, if I get a question like that, I'm going to go, okay, well, often your guides are going to say, why are you waiting for this person? Why are you handing them the power? Because for me, just to give you an example, if you have a reading with me, my job, much like a personal trainer, is to give you the tools to be able to help yourself and to empower yourself. Predictions do come in, but I can't guarantee what someone else is going to do. I can't guarantee that you're not going to start kicking your loved one in the leg and they leave you. I can only give you what your guides are giving me, and how to help you with your self-development, how to help you with your empowerment, how to make you aware that maybe if you are holding on to a relationship that is not serving you, that look at why and the reasons and how you are disempowering yourself, and give you the tools to go out and find a relationship that is going to serve you. Your guides are going to give you the patterns that you have developed. Why are you handing over your power to other people? Why are you a people pleaser? Why are you allowing someone who treats you so poorly and does not respect you to treat you badly? That's what your guides are going to talk about. But what I have seen time and time again is people going to 20, 30 different psychics in a month, comparing them as to when their loved one is, or their person of interest is going to be in touch. No talk about a future relationship. No talk about empowering yourself. This is where you end up in abusive situations, because somebody that is not respecting you, somebody that is not in touch, maybe even somebody that has already said to you, I don't want a relationship, and you're phoning random psychics, and those random psychics are saying, well, they do want a relationship. They just don't know how to tell you. They do want this. They just haven't left their wife. All of that is setting you up to believe that you deserve less. Psychic addiction not only costs you your self-esteem and your belief in yourself, but it disempowers you and it costs you thousands and thousands of dollars. I have seen forums where people have handed over upwards of 10, 20,000 during a year and not ended up with the person of interest that they were first inquiring about. In fact, they then had to go through a healing process of realizing that all the con artists that they had been talking to, that had been promising them something and had been changing dates and pushing the boundaries, had made all this money, emptied their savings account, and they were then left feeling worse about themselves. The reason many people will get attached to handing their power over to psychics is because they've never been taught how to empower themselves. They've never been perhaps told where the handing the power over, where the fear is coming from, where the fear of rejection is coming from, how it developed within them, and tips and tricks in order to work on their self-empowerment and set boundaries. So there starts the cycle of phoning one psychic that says, he's going to call you in 2 days. And when they don't call in 2 days, they phone back and said, well, he didn't call. And she says, oh, give it another 3 days. And that's the cycle. It is an issue from within. It is about feeling disempowered. And unless you have a psychic advisor that can really work with you on empowering you yourself, unless you're willing and ready to do the work, nothing will ever change. The cycle will just continue, and you will allow people to treat you poorly for the rest of your life. It is a very sad phenomenon, where when we perhaps don't know how to love ourselves, and I am not one of those people that's going to say, I don't believe you can find love until you love yourself. I will, however, say that to have a mutual, respectful and loving relationship, you must have some respect and love for yourself in order to set your boundaries. If you can't set your boundaries, then how are you going to expect someone else to respect your boundaries? Imagine being so insecure that you constantly phone a psychic in order to get the answers for your life, but not taking on board the help that psychics want to be able to give you. There are a couple of forums out there. And many years ago, I got dragged through one of those forums. I think I've talked about this before, where somehow someone started talking to me about on these forums. And the funny thing is, they will often say, oh, you must be Matilda. I've had clients send me screenshots because if somebody is positive about me and then somebody on that forum has had a negative experience, they will often go, oh, you must be Matilda. You must be doing a shell account or you must be drumming up business. And I have to laugh because I don't want that business. That is not the business that I want, because the people that frequent those places are often not wanting to hear the truth about situations or hear the possibilities and what a beautiful life they can have if they just sit back and do the work. I am not somebody that will, and plus, I've always had a 3 or 4 month waiting list. So I'm not somebody that's going to sit there and go, come and talk to me and I'll tell you when your person of interest is going to contact you. That's not me. That's not who I am or what I advocate for. But somebody had obviously put a good review on about me, and I got a whole string of these people. And it was probably when my books were a little bit more open and available than what they are now. We're going back probably 5 or 6 years. And I had this string of people that all they wanted to know, nothing else, all they wanted to know was when somebody that hadn't talked to them for 6 months or had dumped them or wasn't interested in them or had left them or they saw at a bus stop was going to contact them and make an effort. It's interesting. I haven't looked at that place for a while, but I'm wondering how many people are still on there after 5, 6, 7 years, still on the same cycle. But psychic addiction is a real thing. And unless you can separate yourself from it and realize that you have all the power, that you are worthy of great things. And if you build your energy up and make yourself feel emotionally safe via your affirmations, if you do your gratitude on a daily basis, you can actually turn your life around. You don't need a psychic to help you. You really, really don't. Self-concept is the basis of so many things. I talked about that last week on this podcast, and I'm about to record several videos to go up onto Patreon about self-concept so that it does give people something to keep going back to look at, to help you build that sense of who you are and what you are deserving of. But please be very careful about psychic hopping. I will never say that I am the be-all and end-all. I am not going to suit everyone. And it would be incredibly egoic for me to say that I do. But please do your research. Even if it's not for mediumship, but it's for psychic work, think about who you connect with. Think about the answers that you really want, and think about the work that you can do within yourself to help you find the answers that you are deserving of. Everybody deserves mutually respectful love. Everybody. Sometimes we have to work through our conditioning, our past experiences, our childhood trauma in order to realize that. And if you don't do the work, then you are going to repeat the cycle. You are worth it. Remind yourself every single day what you are worth. And I have worked with people that have previously had a psychic addiction. They could have bought a car, a house, a down payment on a house. They could have gone on a luxury holiday for the money they have spent. That's just handing even more of your power over to get what you deserve. Be aware that if you are falling down a rabbit hole of psychic addiction, to put a Band-Aid on the trauma that you have, that it's time to address it. Because you are worth it. Up next is the amazing interview with Tracy St. Croi. Keep kind of call her St. Croix, and I keep getting that wrong. It's the French in me. Tracy is an amazing spiritual development coach. Have a listen to this interview. She's very interesting. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy, for being part of Beyond the Broomstick. Hello, and I have the amazing Tracy St. Croix. Now, have I said that correctly?
Yes, mostly people who are like French, Australian, British, they always say St. Croix. Some others say St. Croi.
Oh, okay. Which one do you prefer?
I usually respond to St. Croi.
Okay.
But if a gorgeous, available, hot, like French gentleman says like Miss St. Croix, like I'm done.
You're done. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. It's all in the, like I get called Matilda. It's all in the pronunciation, isn't it? Everyone has a different way of saying it. But I have Tracy here. And Tracy is an evidential psychic medium as well as a teacher. Tracy runs courses for people wanting to work on their intuition, which is why I have invited her here. We've had a long discussion about the fact that I love helping people, but I am not a teacher, a structured teacher. And Tracy is. Tell me a little bit about your history with metaphysics. I always have trouble with that word. Metaphysics and how you first got into evidential mediumship and what you do.
Well, first, hello, everybody out there. Good day, good evening, whatever it may be. And thank you so much, Matilda, for having me on here and introducing me to your absolutely fabulous audience. So
you're welcome.
I mean, I like, most metaphysicians, since, I like to say I never left the dead, even when I was born. The dead were always very, very close to me. It never intimidated me. Taboo topics were always, I was more attracted to them versus repelled. My abilities were always very present as a child growing up, like most people are in this industry.
Yes.
most of us, I think, have suffered a lot of tragic losses, which in turn kind of, what I like to say, they might amplify our abilities in some ways. Long story short, went kind of feral in my 20s, like we all do, and things like that. And then, came my 30s where it was like, girl, either, drink yourself to death and die, or let's go ahead and try and get sober here. So I wisely chose sobriety.
Glad you chose sobriety.
Yeah. And it was interesting because as soon as I started to get sober, boom, it was like somebody kicked a geyser. And it was like like I was raw, and I could feel everything. I knew way too much about too many people. And it was like so much was coming at me. Like I did not know what to do at all.
I get that. A lot of people, first of all, your first point is a lot of people working in our industry have suffered. There is not a spiritual teacher out there that has not walked the walk.
Yeah.
And suffered. That's why we're able to translate a lot of the stuff that we get and help so many people. But like you said, when you became sober, it was that rawness where everything comes at you. I've heard that a lot where, and other people, it's when they walk away from a part of their life, whatever that part that isn't serving them, they suddenly have the space. It's like their emotions and their ability just gets switched on. And you were in your 30s when that happened?
Yeah. I was in my very early 30s.
That's common time.
It was divine right timing. I mean, it really, really was. And, I literally thought I was going insane, Matilda. I mean, literally, my apartment was like Grand Central Station for spirit. And it was kind of freaking me out because I remember sitting there, and all I remember was feeling the electricity, like it was electric in my apartment, starting to build up and build up. And I had my sassy baby was still alive at that point, my black cat. And I remember feeling it. And I looked over at her sitting kind of in the dining room on the floor. And then I audible heard like stereo in my apartment. I heard a male voice say, "Hey," right behind her. And she leapt. I mean, 4 or 5 feet in the air.
Poor cat.
I remember, the mama got up and grabbed her. And I was just like, no, whatever you guys are, I don't know what you are. I haven't figured you the fuck out, but fuck off and quit messing with my. And I just was like, fuck off until I figure this out. And I was pissed because I was like me, one thing, my fur babies, like, no. And I remember shortly after that, I was put in touch with a local psychic medium here. And I remember getting on the phone with her, Elaine Ireland. And I remember I just was bawling my eyes out, like tears everywhere, because I thought I drank so much. I had like wet brain or something. Like I had myself convinced, like, you did yourself in, girl. Congratulations. And she was just so sweet. And she just was like, no, honey, you're not crazy. You're just psychic as hell. Now I'm having a tarot class and I want you to come over to my house and you need to start training your abilities. And lo and behold, I mean, she lived in this like picturesque psychic little cabin, cute little house in Boston. And I went there and started learning how to develop my abilities and my skills and learning tarot and learning all about everything from chakras to auras to dream work to guides and all of that. And then it just kind of started snowballing from there, where it was like, okay, let me start studying this. And then mediumship came back. And then that's how I ended up over at Arthur Findlay College in the UK.
In the UK, yeah. It's actually interesting for me because you say mediumship came back. We all have that ability to be a medium, but because our brain gets so full by the age of 7 or 8, we switch off from it because we're thinking about what's for dinner, who our friends are, school, work, all of those things. But many people have it when they're younger and they sort of have that period of time. Well, some of them don't even bother with it, but after that, but some people will have that time right up until they're in their 30s where it pushes through a little bit more like a subconscious, and then it's up to you whether you jump with it or don't. I always say, I've been able to do this since I was very, very young. And I come from, a lot of people may not know this, but my family are Romany gypsies. So that's where my ability comes. It is very much inherited and hereditary. Mine got I was always working in this, but it got incredibly strong after my mother died. Like it came even stronger after my mum died. And it's a taboo subject. My father's a strict Catholic. He's answerable to God and my mother, and not necessarily in that order. And that's his mantra through life. So it wasn't discussed. It was a part, we don't the gypsies families in this house, that sort of thing. So I have found it really hard to teach what I do because it's so inherent. Because although I did mentorship, I have an amazing mentor, Eileen Burley, who's over in the UK, and she helped me through and understand a lot of things, helped me with the ethical side of things, helped me understand what my symbols and messages and how I got the information and how to ask for it to be shown in a certain way. I struggle to teach it to other people. And that's where I get asked so much. And I wanted to have you on the podcast to be able to talk about your courses and classes, because you are a teacher. You're a teacher by trade as well, aren't you? You're a trained teacher.
Well, I'm not a trained certified teacher, but I've been teaching, metaphysics for quite some time, for sure.
But you teach like people, children.
Yes, I do.
I just wanted to check I wasn't going mad. But what courses do you have? Because I know that you have an intuition course.
Yes, I do. So I have available currently, I have 1-day psychic development classes where you can come in and maybe if you want to get your toes wet or your ankles wet and see what's up, that's a day where we're going to go over kind of a little structure and basics and kind of talk about broad strokes and basics of psychic abilities and making sure that you can at least recognize the ABCs of development.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then I have 4-week-long intuitive and mediumship development classes where that's going to be the full buffet, where we're going to deep dive into all of the clairs and what your dominant strengths are and how to deliver what is a proper message, how to deliver one, the differences between your ego and spirit and spirit guides and working with different divination tools and going over kind of, I want to give everybody a buffet to say like, okay, now go choose what you like on that buffet and go do something fun with it. Right?
Right. Yes. And when you say 4 weeks, you mean like one class a week?
When I say what?
When you said 4-week course, you mean like a class a week?
4. 1, 2, 3. It's a 4-week course where we meet one evening a week.
Yes, that's what I wanted to make sure that people
for 4 weeks in a row.
They weren't saying I had to do 4 full weeks of teaching. It is 1 day every week for 4 weeks. Yes. Right. Just wanted to get that across.
Yes.
But the one thing, like intuition and psychic development it's a great thing to learn, even if you were to only use it in your personal life, even if you don't want to go out and use it to be of service, etc. But I find that people think that they can learn something and that's it. This takes time and commitment to yourself. That is one of the most important things. Do you find that people need to be committed to themselves or sitting in the energy, understanding that it's not something that's going to happen immediately?
Yes, I teach that a lot. One of the things that I really harp into them is set and setting of things.
Right.
What are you doing? Where are you doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing it?
Yes.
And that even though we are all born with our abilities, we are.
Yeah, we are.
But all of us need to sit and develop and figure it out, because we're all going to be at different places depending on what's going on psychologically with you. Where are you at spiritually? What's going on in your current home life? What's going on in your family? We're all going to be in different spots, and you need to understand yourself and where you're at, and that it's not just you're going to come in and take a 1-day course and then all of a sudden you'll just know it all. No, ma'am.
There's a lot of personal stuff that people need to work out before they can
don't even get
understand this. I did a podcast episode, and I'm going to visit that in the coming weeks, about the unhealed healers out there that are angry, that are upset, that have an ego, and they are. If they're unhealed, they're sitting in their ego, and they're using personal vendettas, experience, anger, and affecting that in the messages that they give.
Yes, that is what I like to call spiritual projecting.
Yes.
Along with spiritual bypassing.
It drives me insane, especially when we watch the social media ones. I mean, the reason I came on social media in the first place, or went on social media in the first place, was to teach about the shite psychic mediums. The ones calling themselves a medium, and they say your granny's with you and they love you, and they leave it at that. Just stop using the name medium. Stop using it, because you have not developed your ability and the right to use that. I spent years working on what I deliver, and being in that, having that communication with my guides about this sign means that, and how I get this information, it means that. Do you understand that negotiation that you have to do when you're developing to make sure that you understand? I'm not 100%. No psychic medium is 100%. No. But you have to have a decent percentage to be able to give your messages to other people. Do you cover anything like that in your course?
I do cover that a lot, because I cover especially a lot about going back to what is a proper message delivered, or a proper, even talking about intuitive message and mediumship message.
Right.
It's almost like writing a really good paragraph. What does it involve? You got to have a core idea. You got to communicate that properly. You got to follow it up. You got to, you got to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And because I have had students before who have been, quote, taught by other people, well, your gran loves you and, she's always there with you. And that's all I got. And I told him, I said, well, coaching them about, let's go deeper into that link. Let's lean into that link. Well, that's not what I was taught. And I was like, would you pay for that message? Because I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I want to give evidence. Everyone coming to someone for a mediumship reading, all they want to know is that their loved one's okay. We know that. We want them to know, the loved one is okay, that they are around them. But let's go a bit deeper and go, okay, trying to get names, trying to get parts about their life. How do you feel when you're getting that message? How is that spirit making you feel? Where are they giving you the pain, or where are they giving you that memory? Because I work a lot on memory. My guides and spirit work so much on my memory. They will give me a place, a name, like a face of somebody, so that I can give that name of that person, what somebody does. I mean, obviously we pull on our memory bank a lot, and that's how it's given in my third eye. But a lot of people, they deserve to get that proof that their loved one is around. I spoke to someone today. I did a big evidential mediumship group, and I said, your mum's showing me you having a problem with a glass. Did you drop a glass? Did you smash a glass of wine? And she said, oh my God, I just did that before I sat down.
Exactly. You can't make this shit up.
No, that's evidence. We can all say your loved one is around you, because they are. We're here to prove the continuation of consciousness.
And that's what I tell students. And that's what I had been telling that student. And I was like, ask them for a detail that they know that they've been in their life. Do they know that they're going through a hard time, or that they just spilled, wine on their carpet, or whatever it is, or played that song for them when they were upset about a review at work? It's,
Yeah.
it's the littlest things. And that's what I tell people. Like, that's about sitting down and being able to calm your mind, and going back to this point of, you're able to calm your mind when you're able to kind of work through your own stuff that you have, because we all have stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
we all, people. Here's the funny thing is, Matilda, is that, all of these kind of so-called, we'll just call them so-called, psychic mediums out there are like, I've been through so much tragedy in my life. You have no idea. I am so in tune with spirit because of it. But they're also not working through it, so it's blocking them.
Yes. Yes.
And from giving appropriate messages, and it's not of service to dump that on another client, and not, what I like to say,
Absolutely.
clean up your own mess.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do not heal your own trauma, and you are then translating that trauma or projecting that trauma onto your client, you are not leaving them better off. We have to leave them better than we found them. And this is why courses like yours are so important, rather than, I think I'm a bit intuitive. I'm going to go and buy a pack of tarot cards from the dollar store, and I'm going to set myself up on social media and charge $5 for a yes/no answer.
Good luck with that.
But people buy it.
People do.
I am on a mission to make people aware of what they deserve and what evidential mediumship is.
And that's kind of how you don't like teaching. I always was, I got bit by the bug of, no, I need to teach people how to do this properly. Like,
Yes.
I need to show them that, because I was seeing, because if you've ever traveled, there's a way different method from people in Australia and Great Britain and Scotland and Ireland and, the Northeast of America versus like everywhere else, how they give mediumship messages, and it's shite. And I just was on a mission when I got back here to be like, so who trained you? How did you, and it was, whoa, drove me nuts.
But I've seen so many good mediums in the UK and Ireland. I don't know how you feel about that, but I found a fair few that were absolute shite. I had a very good friend who was the most fairground psychic you could ever know. He was phenomenal. He could tell you what's going to happen on a night. Like, he'd phone me for a chat, a gas bag. He never had any formal training. Okay. He used to do it as a party piece when he was at uni, a bit like me when I used to do it years ago when I was, had a few sherries, and I'd do it as a party piece. He was Irish, very young, in his 20s. And he'd phone me up for a chat, and I'd be getting ready to go out, and I'd be going to get something out of my drawer. He couldn't see me. He'd be just on voice, and he'd say, no, wear the white underwear tonight. And have to go, like he said, it's in the laundry basket. How can you possibly know that? He was as gay as they come, so I wasn't, worried that he was being a peeping Tom. But he'd say things like, you're going to be sat with somebody on a tall stool and you're going to talk about this, and then the conversation's going to come up, and don't lose your temper. And it would be play by play. He was phenomenal. Unfortunately, he doesn't do readings anymore, but he has predicted stuff that is still happening to this day in my life, and I haven't had a reading of him for like 6-7 years.
Wow. Oh,
he was.
I mean, there are some people
phenomenal.
that are like absolutely phenomenal like that.
But he didn't. The only thing I'm going to say about him is that he didn't have ethical training, and he crossed the line on ethics many, many times with different clients. And I'd have to pick up the pieces of that. And that's the incredible ability, but didn't go through any training, didn't go through the ethical side of things, very unhealed, been through a lot of trauma. And that would show in the way he delivered messages, especially when it was relationship or friendship situations, because he would come into it from a toxic viewpoint.
And that's our point, audience, is that people who have what I like to call bleeding traumas right in front of us, it will bleed over into whatever they're telling you.
Yeah, it will absolutely. And I'm all about empowering my clients. Yes. And making sure that I look at myself as when I do psychic readings, it's like having a personal trainer. Okay. You will learn the skills and abilities from a personal trainer, but then you go on and you do it yourself. You don't keep going back and paying the personal trainer. I don't want my clients to keep having to come back to me because they haven't learnt, they haven't empowered themselves. Love speaking to my clients, but why should they have to pay me to keep coming back all the time?
Do you know why? I have clients, Matilda, that I've told that to, and they tell me that I want to work with you because I'm like, you need to go see a therapist. Nope, I want to talk to you.
I get that, but I can't do the therapy side of things because
I can't do the therapy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell them I'm
not
not
qualified.
a therapist, but I'm not qualified.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, nope, I'd rather talk to you than a therapist. And they're just not ready yet. But I'm like, I'm not a therapist. I am not a therapist. I'm not but I guess some people feel more comfortable, which I don't know. It just feels really weird to me sometimes. Like, I'm like, I don't know, though. You're not even listening to me. So
if you're not going to listen to me, I do get grumpy with clients if they're, third, fourth call and they haven't paid attention and they're coming back with exactly the same problem or exactly the same questions. And I'm like, I've given you this information and I've given you the projection. If you follow this information, you're coming back because you haven't got what the projection is, but you haven't done any of the work. Do the fucking work.
Most people don't want to do the work, Matilda.
No, which is why when somebody signs up to do a course like yours, they have to understand that there is work involved.
Yes.
And the work is just as important as the classes.
I will. And I tell my students, my first mentor told me, when you start to get into this industry, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, you don't have to be a professional, even if you're just going to be an at-home friends, family card reader, personal self, you're going to face a lot of fears that you knew and a lot of fears that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Because you want to work with spirit. Spirit wants you to be top notch. And in order for you to be top notch, you need to see where your shortcomings are at. What do you need to face, fix, and heal?
And make yourself accountable for that fixing and healing. So many people don't want to be accountable. I think I'm trying to get across the message that this is hard work. It's not about just rolling out of bed and going, I think I'll just take 4 calls today and do the psychic side of things, and then I'll go about my day. It is exhausting and it's fun. I love my clients and I love helping people, but it's not as easy as people think it is.
No, it definitely is not. But I would like to preface that it's much funner than having to work for somebody else.
Absolutely.
I don't have the temperament for working for other people for very long. I can do it like on group projects and things like that, but you want me to do a 9 to 5? Like,
no.
What?
No, it's too, I couldn't do, this job could not be done 9 to 5. It's too tiring. You've got to do it in bite-sized pieces because otherwise I have felt burnt out this last week. And that's purely because the energy that is going around. I crawled into bed last night and I'm like, I've got a choice. I can get some sleep or I can wash my hair, and sleep won. Thus the hair on top of my head. But it is really tiring, but it is so worth it. If you can take a course like what Tracy has, even if you're not going to work in this profession, intuition and psychic development can help you in sales, teaching, psychology, your everyday life, dealing with those annoying family members. You get so much insight into things.
You know what? I have a lot of people who take my classes, Matilda. I have a lot of people who are actors or in the entertainment industry.
Amazing.
Because they want to know how to tap into their intuition more. Tap into that character or be a better, whatever it is, work with difficult personalities as a producer or a director or...
That's amazing that people have, and those are the sort of people you really want to get it because they're thinking outside the box. They're thinking about the opportunities in which to use it. It's not just to pop on social media and make money. It's about it in their life. And I think that's amazing.
It is. It definitely is in their life. And I truly love, and I am a very grateful woman because the path that I could have gone down would have been much darker and rockier.
Surely you understand and appreciate that your guides gave you the kick in the direction you needed to go in.
I clearly did not realize how, I really did not realize what my soul's mission was at all. And I'm very grateful to do this work. I'm blessed to be able to, as I look at it, I'm able to help people in a way that isn't readily out there for people to know how to tap into. Like, most people are like, yeah, I've had it and I've had these hunches and whatnot, but they don't know how,
to follow through.
Yeah, how to follow through, or where, and honestly, they're like, I wouldn't have known what to Google or who to trust or how to trust.
And that's amazing that you have that. And you run these courses several times a year?
Yeah, I do. I'll be running in my teaching era right now with astrology. Right. So Spirit's like, and I'm like, okay, so I will be running a few of these spring courses, and then I will be delivering more going into summer, and then seeing. I mean, if you guys are interested, I have a Patreon. Go ahead, join my Patreon. You'll get the juicy discounts on there.
I'll put all the links in the show notes so that people can check out your website, your Patreon, and all of that and find you. But you've got an intuition course coming up at the moment. Is it full, or do you have spaces?
I have one, starting, my tomorrow, Saturday.
Okay, this won't probably come out in time for that.
That's okay, but it will still come out. I'm having 1-day classes in March as well. And then my 4-week courses start as well in March. So people will still have plenty of time to get signed up for that.
That's great. And I do recommend anyone that is really wanting to tap into their intuition more, get some real grounding for that, to pop along and check out Tracy's Patreon and her website. And you've got an exciting project coming up. Tell us about that.
I do. So I have a podcast called Haunted Road Trip Shows, Paranormal History Dying to be Heard, because I like to do paranormal investigations from a form of not, scaring the britches off of everybody all the time over every little, creak and sound. And I had an opportunity to film a TV show, which is in final editing stages of the same name, called Haunted Road Trip Show. And it's going to air on Binge TV, as well as a bunch of other networks have decided to pick it up upcoming.
Amazing.
In late spring and summer. So if you like paranormal investigations from the medium side, from a medium doing the investigation versus a bunch of people with tech, even though I like the tech stuff, don't get me wrong, I like all the tech stuff, that's cool too, but this is more from, how does a medium go in there and do the investigations?
That's amazing. So I will put all Tracy's links in the show notes, and I will also, when the show comes out, I'll put it up on my Patreon and social as well. So you won't miss out on it. Thank you, Tracy. That's thank you very much for talking to us about intuition and the courses that you run. And I'm just glad that there are people out there that can teach and take it seriously, because it's not just about tapping into your intuition. It's knowing what to do with it, knowing how to use it, knowing what boundaries to set and sit in those boundaries. Because just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And it'll probably backfire in your face anyway if you don't know what you're doing.
I know. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, we've had the German elections, and it was the right wing that got in, but not the far right. So that's a semi-win. It's not amazing, but it is a semi-win. But it also plays into some of the predictions that I have made recently about Europe coming out as a collective against the United States of America, which is going to be very, very tricky. I'm not going to lie. I made a prediction during the event that Laurie Rivers and I had, where I saw the armed forces being removed from various posts the US Armed Forces. I do see that happening over this year. I have also talked a lot about March and April being very crunchy. I feel that there is going to be a government shutdown, even if it is only for a very short time, and it is going to cause social distress and social unrest. Having talked to my Patreons about this recently, I just want people to realize we're only 2-3 weeks away from that. Middle of March is what I've been shown. The 17th and 18th playing out in my head a lot. If you can just get a little bit of extra food for your pantry, it would be wise. I don't think shortages are going to be the main issue. It could be that if you're on Social Security, you're not getting your check. But it also could be that prices go up. But if you are living in a major capital city, be really, really careful about joining in on any protests. It feels, I've been shown, it's really hard for me to relay this information, but I feel like some violence is likely to happen for violence sake. Washington is making me feel very uncomfortable as I go into that energy. And I know that the security is really tight around the Capitol, especially since January the 6th. But I fear that people may try and go up the steps, storm it, make it have a problem. It just feels very, very difficult. So be aware of that if you are in Washington, D.C. There feels like there's some push-pull energy and riling people up. So, as I said, just please stay away from protests if you can. I also want to talk about things happening in the United Kingdom. There is some shock coming from Parliament. Historical events that somebody has partaken in. It feels like, I don't want to say gossip, but a tell-all is coming out about a member of Parliament. It could be Keir Starmer. As I've said, I don't think Keir Starmer is going to be Prime Minister as we get towards the end of this year. It doesn't mean to say that his policies are going to stop, but I don't think he's going to be Prime Minister as we go through the end of this year. There is a tell-all. Somebody is selling their story to a newspaper, that sort of thing, around somebody, a major player in Parliament. Over the coming month, I have been shown extreme violence through many cities worldwide. People are protesting about various things. Do not be surprised if during the middle week of March, the Australian election is announced. That's going to be shocking. I've already given my prediction about that and explained that initially I felt Albanese or Albanese's party would win. I am afraid that I do feel like Dutton is going to get in, and it's going to be a coalition. So, or initially a coalition. That's what I feel. Sorry, that's what I've been shown. An investigation into Poland and the selling or receiving of and news about a fashion house, a very famous one, going into receivership over the next couple of months. It just feels as if the energy is going to be a lot freer. Remember to sit in your consciousness. I'm going to be doing a specific recording on grounding, which will be going onto my Patreon very soon. If you're a member of my Patreon, I've just released a 10-person group event. That goes to Patreon first. They get it probably for about 48 hours, and then it goes out to the general public. I think it was released this morning. Alicia put it up, and I think there's already 3 or 4 spots already gone. So be quick with that one. New one-on-one readings are released for May this weekend. And that's about it. I want to remind you all of what you're deserving of, both on personal and in the workplace, to learn and work on your boundaries, both with other people and with yourself. Because if you don't set your boundaries with yourself, no one else knows what they are. So really work on that. You are all amazing human beings. Remind yourself of that daily. Remind yourself of what you're deserving of. That's about it from me this week. I hope this has been helpful. You know where to find me. Tracy's contact details are all in the show notes. All of my contact details are in the show notes. For today, it is goodbye. Have a wonderful week, everyone.